Autism does not necessarily mean a lack of empathy. That is how it was early framed back in the day, but we are largely seeing that is not true. But it is often associated with a different way of showing empathy. I'm Dr. Anna Kolschmidt. I'm an industrial organizational psychologist, not a clinical psychologist. I research the unwritten rules of work for people from working class backgrounds and neurodivergence. I'm not a clinical, so take it with a grain of salt and look it up yourself. A lack of empathy is not autism, it's psychopathy. Autism has always been disproportionately diagnosed in white men and conflated with them. As we have learned more about this, we have expanded the criteria and started to realize that it pops up also in women and people of color, but that it pops up differently because there are different cultural expectations for women and people of color. Somebody with autism may have less cognitive empathy, meaning they may not understand what you are going through, but they may show it differently. Like they may ask more questions, like, tell me what that's like. It doesn't mean they lack affective empathy, which is still the ability to feel for someone else. They just may not show it. They may not show it on their face, which they might keep more still than usual. And they may ask more pointed questions instead of trying to touch you or hug you, for example. But arguably, asking someone how their experience is one of the most empathetic things you can do. It is very annoying when people assume to understand your experience. There are cultural stereotypes and expectations that play in here. Women and people of color are also less likely to be diagnosed with ADHD. Women are already told to smile all the time, even when they're not neurodivergent. So if you're an autistic woman, you learn how to mask really quickly. People of color are told that they are aggressive all the time, so they also learn how to mask really quickly. If you're ADHD, women and people of color don't get to just be hyper in classrooms and like, oh, maybe he has ADHD or she has ADHD and they need help. But these approaches to looking at some external problem are considered more valid for white men. That doesn't mean they shouldn't get treatment. It just means maybe we should also consider other people. But what I worry about, and I've seen various articles talking about, is that if someone has a lack of empathy, that could indicate maybe they are on the spectrum and something else is going on. And not everyone who is a psychopath becomes a serial unaliver. In fact, a lot of surgeons are psychopaths because it helps be able to separate from some of the empathy if you got to cut someone open in a life or unaliving situation. But the refusal to try to empathize with somebody else, just to write it off as, well, I can't do that, I'm autistic, is not accurate. There might be something else going on there. And white folks, we got to ask ourselves what we do to our boys that them lacking empathy is so normalized and not seen as problematic. It's great that a lot of them get help, though, again, not a lot of low income ones. We don't need to just write that off. And in our culture in the US, we tell men a lot of times that they can't show emotions that are not anger. And then we wonder why they have the most high violent crime statistics and why most mass shooters are them, especially the white ones. And I'm coming at this from the angle of someone with 5 white brothers and a white father who I love. It is not a service to our boys or anybody else to normalize this.